Go.
All right. Andrew, welcome to the Mass Construction Show.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, actually, I should say thanks for coming back.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yep, I should have done a little homework as far as looking at the exact date you were here, but I want to say it was about 2 years ago. You were 2 years in business, and the whole point of having you on was we talked a lot about, some of it was my opinion about that I thought the way you set up a business was the right way, or one of the possible ways you could set it up, and I really liked like kind of the systems-based approach you took to things, the like being prepared for growth, right? Really building something to scale, not just building for where you're at the moment. We got to hear some good stories about first job being, $8,000 with you and Nathan putting in a light switch in a door frame in a hospital, right?
Yeah.
But you weren't building to do that. You were building to grow and scale and build high rises, right? I really liked that approach. Now we're 2 years later. You're at 4 years. I bet on you 2 years ago, and I think I should listen. I'm pretty sure I made a prediction that, and I said, you guys are going to do really well and that you're going to kind of be a force to be reckoned with. And I feel like so far so good. You're making me look good. So we're at the 4-year mark. Is it wrong for me to ask volume-wise where you guys are at, or?
No, we can share that, yeah. So we're running around $30 million a year, which is remarkable. Last year it was 29 point something, and this year is going to be a little bit more than that. And we built ourselves a great team, a great group of clients, and it's amazing to go from an $8,000 door job to a $30 million a year business. Just remarkable.
Yeah. To make it nice and easy, pretty much 3 million to 30 million in 3 years.
Crazy.
Right?
Crazy.
Because when we were first talking,
yeah,
we were like,
we were
I think we're going to do 3 million this year or something like that, 2 million. Like, I remember those numbers floating out there, right?
When we first met with our bonding company way back in the beginning, they asked us what kind of volume we wanted to do, and I was like, $3 to $5 million was we thought would be our sweet spot, and now we're doing projects for that size, 3 or 4 or 5 of them a year. So it's been great to see it grow.
Yeah. What's, just from like a big picture perspective, what has changed with the company? I know it's a very broad question, but it's kind of intentionally broad. Like, has it just been that the size of work has been the real driver, where like you thought you were going to be in the 6-figure type projects,
right,
piling them together, and it became larger type projects? Is it a type of work that you guys feel like, or?
It's a little bit of both. We focus mostly on healthcare and life science. That's our sweet spot, we feel. We brought on a few extra people to help with our growth, but having the systems in place, working hard, really not letting off the gas. When we talked about that the first time, I think we talked about being able to hit the gas with the systems in place, and now it's more of we're doing that in cruise control, where we found our sweet spot. We're a 10-person firm that does $30 million a year worth of work, and it's pretty remarkable compared to what I've heard. Yeah, and our overhead is low, based on our efficiencies. I'm constantly trying to develop better ways to do things internally. And I've got a couple examples I actually thought of on the way over here, and I should do something even better. So it's my mind's always thinking of how we can do things better and leading that way with our people.
From like an efficiency standpoint, mostly.
From efficiencies, from procedures, all of those type of things. For a silly example is, all GCs have to go out and bid projects for their subs, right? We have to collect their information. Well, you've got all these different GCs doing it all these different ways. Well, let's work with our subs and try to figure out what's a great bid invitation that they'll respond to and feel comfortable responding to. They'll answer the information so that they're part of the group in decision in developing this. So it's not just me saying, give it our price this way. It's, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Standardizing this, and how can we work together to make this form really work for everyone? And I've got some great feedback. My last 2 weeks have been focusing on this with a lot of our large companies we work with, for subcontractors, trade contractors, and a lot of great feedback I've heard is we know the projects. We're not just sticking an assistant on it to help de-scope it. That we answer questions right away. We develop our own scope, not just do you have this or that, but actually calling out major components, and that way it helps the sub not miss some of the scope. So we're doing that, the down and dirty detail stuff. Now I want to incorporate that with a generalized bid form that will encompass us across all the divisions, and then people just put not applicable and things that don't apply to them. So it's going to help streamline our bidding process, our pre-construction phase, and it'll help our subs make it easier for them to bid to us, which makes it easier for them, which gives us better pricing, which turns around quicker results.
Okay, so you're getting better quality upfront information that is consistent and hopefully could somewhat be almost universal.
Right. So.
And then I have a
Yeah.
follow on. So please correct me where I was wrong there.
Yeah.
And then also, to me, that seems like that would be really good information for a D-scope down the line. There's less worry because you've. Okay, good. I see you smiling.
Yeah. So it all starts with how do we? You asked the first question of what has changed in Sterling. So the first 3 years we were developing our own systems. We were building our company, getting out there with clients. Now I've focused a lot of my attention on improving what we've already developed. So I looked at our bidding, the way we bid projects, and it was formalizing a bid scope sheet to help level the scopes for the subs in the beginning, and then also help buy out the job at the end. So it's both. That tool's going to work the same on the D scope, which is the purchasing, and the pre scope, which is the getting the information for us to develop our budget. So that form is going to work in both ways, and it's also part of our bid form that we're going to send to our clients. So we're a fully open book, so our clients see all the proposals, and now we're easily showing them how they're leveled, and we go into purchasing. So I never really thought of this for we always send things out individually per job, but now if I come up with a standardized form that we're going to implement on all projects, so it'll be broken out by scope. So electrician will have all their scope there, but also have a project requirement scope that will be specific to what we want them to carry. Do they carry their own cleaning, their own coring, their own housekeeping, all these different things that is pre-built into this. And a lot of GCs do this. But what we're doing differently is we're asking the subs is, how would you like to see it? Mr. Canestrao, Mr. Cox, all these people, how would you like to see our bid form to make it easier for you to respond to us so that we get more efficient?
Yeah, so if they track things, we're staying with electrical, right?
Yep.
Like you want to go by foot candles of temporary light, and they want to go by linear feet of stringers or something like that, right? Bad example, probably.
No, it's
right?
Perfect example.
But okay, how do you look at it? So we're asking you how you operate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, for instance, electrical, stay on that. I want to know what the light fixture package alone is, not to install it, not to wire it, not to write circuits to it, but what the package is. So that'll be a line item in our qualification of what are the fixtures costs, what are the gear costs, and people get the electricians get their numbers that way from the supply house. They get a package number for lighting, they get a package number for gear. So now they can just apply their markups to it and send us along the information already broken out. So that's two big components out of the way on their proposal. Now it's just labor and all the other parts and pieces, but same thing with the fire alarm devices. So if we can categorize different components of their work to make it align with our work, it's going to be more transparent and easier for them to follow along.
And you get, which you kind of are already getting with the standard form, but you're getting a lot of consistency across subcontractor, right? Apples to apples kind of.
But having them help us develop that form and not just shoving it down their throats is what I'm trying to change. I'm not just sending them our form. Right now we're developing a new form that I'm using, like McDonald Electric, Performance Electric, all these other subs are helping us develop a form of how they get bids from Consigli's, the Lee Kennedys, the Commodores, all these other GCs are sending them their invitations and bids. What do you like about theirs? What do you like about ours? What can we do to make this better?
I like that.
Yeah.
So, not surprisingly, a lot of the tinkering that you're doing is around system and processing, right? You kind of defer, like that's, everybody does it, right? That's not,
Yeah.
like,
I don't forget, I don't stay away from the hard stuff, but I think that's a way for me to help the company grow, is to improve our systems.
yeah, it's like know where your strengths lie, right?
Yeah.
That's what your strength is, in the same way that like I'm gonna have my tendencies where I'm gonna direct to that and kind of. Are you looking at all at like maybe things like, and I can't think of any other examples than this right now, but like, okay, and to some degree process can lead to this, but like, okay, how can we do things different to end up with a more satisfied client? Are there other ways that you're tinkering or looking at things, or at the end of the day, by you having these improvements, that leads to a more satisfied client?
It starts with client satisfying the client. So we always do like what's a lessons learned at the end of a job with our client. Just me and the client sitting down and saying, hey, what could we have done differently? We do that with the architect. And if I'm hearing the same couple things, hey, we could have done a better job cost reporting this PCO, or we could create a different bucket allocation for owner savings compared to contingency savings, like a buyout, we put buyouts in different buckets. By understanding their needs, I can tweak our systems to make it more efficient for us to respond to them quicker. That's all it is. You can't let systems stop you from growing or stop you from be a roadblock for not getting something done for a client.
Correct.
And you can't let a system rely on a system to take over for what an employee has to do or someone has to do to help input this, but you can use these systems to make you better, and that's what we do. That's all. The systems don't run the company. We run the company. We run the business.
So, year 2 Sterling versus year 4 Sterling is more employees. It's a different office, right?
Yeah, we got a real office in Boxborough now. We have a CFO controller person that's on full time that's managing all of our accounting. We're dealing with our partners more, our insurance, our risk management, our bonding, our tax accountant a lot more. Like every 2 weeks we're getting together with these people, reviewing numbers. We're closing the months within 4 days. So all of our invoices go out on or before the last day of the month, which is unbelievable for our billings that we have now compared to when we had 2 years ago. We're doing more with almost the same amount of people, maybe 1 or 2 more, but we're efficient at it. We've learned what works for us in this little niche of the work, the clients, the systems, so that any one of us could probably step back a little bit and look in from the outside and see how this thing works, and then make tweaks from there. So it's almost like a car idling. That's the way I want to leave it alone. It can ramp up or ramp down, but it's got a good idle that if I stepped away, which I did, my wife's birthday was last September for 2 weeks. I unplugged for 2 weeks. One person get in touch with me, my business partner, if you needed me, Nathan, and you didn't have to get in touch with me. And I wouldn't have been able to do that 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's great.
It was amazing.
I mean, that's like,
Yeah, we went to Portugal. It was nice.
that's the dream,
It's
right?
the dream. I can't do that forever. We're not stepping away from the company, but if we didn't have the people in the place, the systems in place, the work, the clients, all of the things working well, that would not have happened.
Been feasible.
And I didn't come back to a shit show.
Yeah. And you know, by bringing on the CFO and a couple other additional employees and getting the systems in place, that was all stuff that you and Nathan were trying to do yourselves before? Or maybe with part-time people. So I think that's is that the change, right? Where like, okay, there's a lot of stuff we were just trying to do ourselves in the beginning because you're bootstrapping it and trying to get going. But now from year 2 to year 4, which is actually a relatively short window,
It is, yeah.
right? You were able to put people or systems in place that means that you don't have to do that. And then I'm going to pile on another thing here, unless I said something wrong. But I like this also to be, we have a fair amount of students at Wentworth and Roger Williams and other schools across the country, frankly, that listen. So when you say you want to close out the month within 4 days,
Yeah.
what does closing out a month mean?
I'm going to try my best to explain it. Yeah.
High
It's high level. So in the construction industry, you work for a month, you bill, you get paid a month later. So the goal is to get all of your invoices out the end of that month, the first month, month one. So day 30 of that month, you get your invoices out. And then it takes time to do all your cost whip reporting, which is work in place, all your projects you have to go through. We could have 10, 15 jobs going at once. So we do all our projections in our cost reports. We put all our G&A in. We put all these numbers into a model, and then we close the month. The month is closed. We see where we close the month. We know where we are for profits and loss, over billings, under billings, all those types of things for that month, and it gives us a projection of where we are for that month compared to where we are for the quarter and where we are for the year. Some companies don't do that every quarter. We do it within 5 to 10 days of that business days of that month ending, closing the month, and have a report. Then we meet with our financial team, our outside accountant, AF CPAs, and we go through the numbers, look at where we were last month, look where we were for the quarter, and just make projections and where do we need to move things around, why did things change. It helps keep a pulse on the financial health of the company.
Yeah, that reminds me, like, thinking back to like Susan Greeley. She talked about, she's a CFO, and was at, oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. She was at it was a large general contractor that you know, Peyton, I want to say. She was with Peyton when they went under. And she just learned a lot about, having those controls and not having those controls and what can go wrong. And now she's worked at a couple firms where she goes there and becomes like CFO / actually more like COO, and helps them kind of get their companies in line. And she had a consulting business for a while based off of it. And I imagine if you're not doing that to some degree, you're flying blind, right?
It can be scary, especially something so volatile like construction, where materials change, labor changes, work stuff comes and goes, pandemics happen. If you don't know where you are month to month, you could be in some trouble. And making sure your taxes are properly allocated, like all those type of things are important. Your health insurance bills, all the things that we didn't know about 3 years ago are now we had to learn. And we have systems in place now that manage this really well for us. And the team that Sonia and Dan, they work so well on this stuff. And it's for most of my time now is just reviewing reports and not really having to. I dig into a couple if I see a percentage change a little bit on a job, but for the most part, it's just checks and balances at this point.
Now, does it create like almost like a dashboard for you, so you can kind of just see where everything's at, kind of, okay, and then you can kind of see if something falls?
It's really simple. It's by job percentages, and I have different alarms almost set up, so if something drops a different way, I can see it, and it really works well.
Right.
Yeah.
This is.
We're actually using the tools that we built 4 years ago properly now.
Okay.
And that's what's nice about it. We're getting our value now. We were overpaying before, and now we're not. We're now getting the value for what we use.
It's funny, the timing's interesting. Just last week I was on a podcast. It was an Irish company, and they're called Live Costs. And their whole thing is they were a plug-in to different Sage or whatever other accounting softwares, and they create a dashboard so they collect all the historical data. So if you knew it knows how much you were paying for plywood per sheet last month, and if it's gone up and it uses AI and everything, where it can machine learning to just like, if you get a slip, it just knows, it'll read the title block, the dollar amount, it knows all the things. It's pretty slick. But their whole thing is, when I kind of put they weren't me, but I was kind of curious about what they were doing when I pushed them on it. I was like, where do you see, what are the problems, the same problems you're seeing? And he goes, most people are just not aware. He goes, they don't know where their money, where they are making money and where they are losing money. They know if the job made money or didn't make money, but is there a particular piece of the work that you're losing money on every time, in another place where you make it, like, and he said the other place, he goes, is, we just found was overcharging. You're getting stuff from suppliers and vendors. He goes, it's great that you have relationships and you stay with the same people, but we were noticing, after, 18 months, this thing has gone up 30% in price and no one noticed it because just bills are coming in. And so just that access and being aware, and that's why when you started talking about doing it monthly, I was like, there's like a tie there, like, because you got to be aware or else it can really get away from you. So I like that. Okay, so now I get a better sense of what Sterling 2 years ago looked like, what it looks like now.
Not just the financial part of it, but our own employee training. We do a lot in-house. You're also part of some of our training, which has been great, but I spent a lot of time with new employees, bringing them on board, showing them our systems, going over lessons learned as a group, always trying to constantly improve ourselves and what can we do better. That's our mindset. Everyone in the company's mindset is what can we do better? How can we be better? How can we do better? And all of those things compiled with the systems has helped us develop where we are.
The kind of continuous improvement mindset, right?
Everyone talks about it. I still find time to teach at Wentworth and Fitchburg State and doing the off stuff, but it's really putting your head into these things and making a difference, and that's what drives it.
Yeah, there is a difference. I mean, I see companies that legitimately execute on continuous improvement. Like, they're legitimately, that's what they're trying to do, and then there's a lot of people that say they're about continuous improvement, and that's not happening.
We're sending closeout packages the same day as CFOs. Full closeouts. As-built warranties, O&Ms, owner training, done. And we're on to the next one. Back in my old days, that wasn't happening for months.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting retainage the same days, the same month we're closing out jobs.
That's nuts.
Clients wouldn't give that money to us if we weren't done. Punch list done, everything done.
Yeah.
And that's, we execute. We start at the beginning, and so now I'm trying to improve our little upfront stuff, but we're closing out really well. I think I focused a lot in the beginning on closing out jobs well, and now I want to get ahead of the pre-con a little bit better.
In talking to construction companies, most of them are saying where they need to improve is closeout.
Yeah.
That's where they really struggle.
I wish I could say that was my plan all along, to be really good at closeout, but I think by having everything in place and keeping track of all that stuff made us better at closeout. So
that's fantastic.
It's unbelievable. We're almost sending closeouts.
That's like unheard of. Yeah.
It's remarkable. And I'll bring clients on and have them tell you, but they ask us, hey, do you send closeouts? And we're like, we forward an email that we sent a month ago. It's like pretty much that's how it goes.
That's fantastic.
It's pretty awesome.
Okay, so those are all have been positive things.
Yeah.
What has been the struggle? Because and I know there's probably not enough time, right? Everyone knows starting out a business that there's just so much to learn. There's so much I learned even just being a one-man band.
Yeah.
Right. And
so what are the roadblocks, or what have my hurdles been?
Yeah, like what happened?
And I guess people want to know about, like, the insides of this.
Yeah, I guess where I hope the conversation eventually goes is, like, I always think about this through the lens of who's sitting there listening.
Yeah.
Right? And what can they learn? And they can learn from your successes, but they can also learn from your failures, in hopes that if there is some other PM working somewhere that wants to go out on his own, like, what would you tell them if they,
Right.
And
so we talked about all the good stuff. So
Yeah.
the things that have been tough,
I mean, everyone says hiring is difficult. I don't know if you feel the same, but I hear that a lot from people, like trying to get the right people. And
number one, it started with me. I had to change as a person, because I was a good PM. I was a real good PM, but I was never a good leader, a owner of a business, and that's a different way of being a person. My words matter more as a president of a company than they did when I was a PM. So when I speak to people, I have to take that in mind, and that's tough to overcome and tough to learn. And I'm working on it. it's definitely was a struggle in the beginning of the company because Nathan and I put so much into this business. Everything was so personal, and mistakes happened. You feel like you go into your old PM days and just want to solve it and fix it and do it yourself, but you can't do that as the president or vice president. You can guide and mentor, but you can't take control of something or demean someone or just jump into it the wrong way as you can as more of an employee working with a coworker, not being disrespectful, but just being hard on something, right? So that's been a struggle in the beginning because anyone starting their own company, they're doing it because they're good at something. They're not good at everything. So I had to learn the accounting. I had to learn more business development. I had to learn how to lead. So, and that's been a struggle. That's a constant struggle. The second hardest thing in a decision I fight all the time is what to do next. And there's only so much I can do. There's only so much Nathan can do in a day. And does it make sense to bring another Andy or Nathan on as, a higher level person and expand the company? Or do we stay where we are? Those are big decisions to make that are hard to understand. There's pros and cons. Yeah, you can grow, but do you make more money? Yeah. Do you have more headaches? Do you have more risk and liability? Do all the things that you're doing now, do you lose control of because now you're not controlling the jobs like you are because you're a smaller company, and do you give lesser quality? Like, those are really deep conversations to think about of what the next level is if you get to a different level.
Yeah. It seems, I'm not saying this is a knock, because I'm thinking about some of these same things. It's a very personal, like we're talking, yes, it's a business question, but it's really a personal question for you and Nathan, right? Because
do we trust someone enough to run a project like we would run a project to a client? We have our employees that run projects. I'm talking the client side of it. Nathan and I commit to all of our clients, and all of our employees are committed to all the clients, but we're the last call. Yep. And bringing on a key individual would make them the last call eventually, because they're going to have a better relationship with that client. I'm assuming if we hire someone, if we did this route, they would be bringing in their own book of business and managing their own clients and just working through Sterling, obviously as a Sterling employee. But that can create hardships between my partner and I, Nathan and I. It can create hardships between employees. There's so many different positives and negatives for that, and that was a struggle that I've been thinking about a lot. A third hiccup is knowing that you can't do it all yourself. Trying to understand it all yourself is one thing, but doing it all yourself, you can't. So bringing in the right team, consultants, HR, risk management, has been a huge help. Finding those people are tough. I would instruct anyone to interview and work with people that are leaders in their market, construction management, and work with people that know our business, like an accountant that knows accounting, not just dental accounting. You need to know construction accounting. So that's we went through some turns on that stuff, finding the right people. We had I don't know if I mentioned this back then or not, but we had wire fraud. We lost $38,000 in a wire transfer because we didn't have the right systems in place because I didn't know better. $38,000 of real money that will never come back. That was transferred to someone else's account because we made a mistake. That's my fault because I didn't have the right systems in place. Didn't know any better. And I knew now for an insurance of like $300 I would have had it covered, and didn't have all those things in place. Another hard one is dealing with employees, knowing when to let someone go that's just not a fit. And that's harder than anyone can think of because, especially for a small firm, because you're so close to everyone. You're president and CEO of a 100, 200, 300, 400 person firm. They're not a number, but it's a little less, you're a little more standoffish. There's managers and people in place. All these people are pretty much direct reports. And to understand that this person just is not a fit and to let him go or her go before they cause worse damage was a struggle for me. Because I want to give everyone the benefit of doubt. I think I can teach this to anyone, and sometimes it just doesn't fit. And that doesn't mean they're good or bad, it just may not fit our model. But understanding that and realizing that early on, instead of wasting time on that, is crucial and hard and a tough decision to make.
Yeah. No,
Real tough.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot to be said for who, like, company fit. I think people really underestimate that in both ways, right? Is the employee a right fit for the company, and vice versa? Like, I know there are certain companies that I would not thrive in. Like, if I was your direct report,
Yeah.
we would hate each other. We would fucking hate each
It's
other.
alright.
Right?
No,
Like-
I go easy on you.
Right? That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that's a personality,
Right.
right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I really don't care that column with Andy is,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like this side or that, you know, like,
Yeah.
and you'd be in like hives because
Yeah.
like that's why doesn't he make them all the same word,
Yeah.
right? It's just that's it, and other people would just be thrilled that you care about that, right? And yeah, so that's really that's a gnarly one because it's got everything, right? It's emotional.
Then if that person leaves, does that open up a door that someone else wants to leave? Like, it's a snowball effect that goes through your mind because you're a small firm, and it was really, we went through it this past year. We had 2 employee turnovers, and things are great now, and I wish everyone the best of luck, and we parted ways well, but I wish I could have made different decisions earlier in my career with that. It's just tough. It's not, and I'm learning that. Like, I never had to deal with that stuff before as a project manager.
Right. Now, I know you're not. I'm not asking you to, and I know you don't claim that you have perfected this, but you brought up a good point where you talked about, and it gets to the fact that a lot of times, even everywhere in business, never mind as a business owner, but somebody's a good practitioner, and they make them a manager because they're good at what they do. It does not, just because they're good at what they do does not mean that they're a good manager. In the same way that just because you're a good PM doesn't mean that you're a good president of a construction management company, right? How did you overcome, or how did you go about like being able to like step away and be like, okay, I have to not be in the weeds, and I have to not be the project manager anymore? Like,
I'm still learning.
because you said it was one of your struggles.
It is
right?
a struggle, and I'm still learning. I've read some books on leadership, and a few different columns on that. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on different decisions I've made, or in meetings, observing more. Sometimes speaking less is really important, and that's one thing I've always struggled with. I'm very quick with my words, and I'm learning to control my tongue better and think more and really just understand and observe. Being a good president, CEO, any leader, we have to do the tough stuff. We shouldn't be doing the fun stuff. It should come in time, meaning the fun. We're going to enjoy the growth of our company, but we have to have the hard conversations with employees. We have to have the hard conversations with the client. We have to train our employees. We have to lead our employees. We have to get away from the daily deeds, the daily details, or we'll never be able to do our job, which will not help the company. And that's what it took to understanding that to really taking a step back. An example was we had a monster of a project last year. It was 451 D Street for related deal. It was almost $12 million project, infrastructure job. 9-story occupied building. We came in and put in new makeup air, ductwork throughout the building, generator, 6,000 amp service, all the components that make the space lab ready. We were a young company at the time, and nobody other than myself or Nathan had built something like that. Mm-hmm. So I was on site pretty much every day. We had staff on site, but I was there to help guide that ship. And what I realized was, if I'm doing that, no one's driving Sterling's ship. Mm-hmm. and we didn't have any revenue coming in for them. We don't have, like, bigger companies have that pre-con, that BD market, always going out chasing work.
A pipeline, yeah.
If I'm stuck on a job site in the details, Sterling will fail. And we realized that. We recovered, we had some things coming up, but I know now that I can never be that committed to anything. I have to be able to guide this ship, otherwise we will miss out. And that was a hard thing to do, because you have to, can't let the project fail,
I was just about to say
can't let the client fail, can't let the company fail. We struggled a little bit. We could have done a little bit better last year if I had spent more time managing Sterling than managing one single project. But it was the largest project we've ever done. So for our core client. So there's pros and cons to it. But as a new person coming into this business that wants to run their own company, we talked about the hurdles I had. Employees, HR, making tough decisions, but knowing when to step back and focus on the bigger picture is extremely difficult. Because I'm the one getting the phone calls at night about the project instead of someone else, because I was the head. Other people were getting phone calls too, but you understand?
Well,
I was too involved.
No, I do understand.
I was just running the coordination meetings.
Yeah, because what happens is, it's human nature where, like, people default to who's there and who will get the problem solved.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we all know that there is, like, big projects sometimes with multiple supers and multiple PMs, but there are certain people that get stuff done. So they'll go to, let's say, Super B, even though it's under Super A's area, but they know Super B will just get that done.
Yep.
So that things start getting piled on that person, and then that, where you have to really say, like, no, that is Super A's area, go talk to Super A, right? But those people are good because it's their tendency to take that on and solve that problem.
Right.
And that's where you're saying you have to unwind yourself from that, like, that situation. And it sounds like you're working on it. But you're right, like, it's not very clean, right? Because I would venture to say that was not, for the health of Sterling, that was not the best way to run it. But I think you had no other choice.
I didn't have someone that could have stepped up and take on what I did there 100%. I had people that could do pieces of it, but no one could do the whole thing. And I needed to be there. And I worked 16 hours. I was there long days, nights, and I would doing the office stuff behind the scenes, and I didn't sleep. And that was for 4 months.
Yeah.
And Nathan and I saw that pipeline change of our whips and all those things where it takes months to get a job going. Pre-con, budgeting, permitting, all those types of things. And if I spent 4 months dedicated to one thing, that's months of projects that we won't see until November, December, January that weren't showing up. And we saw that. We had some people filling some things, and we were fine. We did $30 million. We did okay.
Yeah.
But the point was, we could probably done even more if I'd figured out a way to manage that one project better and run the company at the same time, but I just didn't have that, and that's what started the whole conversation of, do I bring the person in? And all those things happen when these things are thrown at you. I feel like we did it the best way we could, and Sterling's strong. Now we're going through COVID, and the project came out well. We're doing a lot more work at D Street. It's lab ready, and it's everything turned out for the best.
Yeah, because obviously, this is nitpicking a bit, but if we're sitting here saying, like, hey, how do we get it to optimize, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's really a hiring thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
So.
But then I'm hiring someone to run a job that I've never worked with before on a $10 million job from one of my core clients. Yeah. How do I still not be involved with that? Yeah. You can't just hand that off.
Oh yeah, I'm not. That's why I'm saying, I'm trying to be very specific that we're talking about, like, how do we get this thing perfect, right? Yeah. Like, not that.
If I had someone a year beforehand, yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is not you should have done this. It's like, if we were in an ideal world, that becomes, I think, less about you needing to extract yourself and more about, hey, like, if we had hired somebody else a year ago, but how would you know that, right? Like, that's really.
We don't have that capability. We don't have that pipeline.
Yeah.
One last thing that has been tough is saying no. We've had to say no to a core client on a project that we couldn't fit in our schedule, and they had to go with someone else. We are reworking for that client, but
I hate that.
Knowing to say no, and then the thing gets delayed, and you could have done it. That's like the worst. But we chose to say no on $1 million project last year with a client that we did the permitting, we did the pre-con, we did everything for it, and had to give it to we had to hand it to a company. They didn't go out and bid it. We found a company for them, and they worked it out. But that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Say no.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be saying no to $1 million job ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yep.
Tough. But the best thing we could have done.
Yeah. Yeah. In the long run, they're going to be happier that
Yep.
you did that.
They appreciated it. They appreciated everything we did for them, and we're still in their good graces and work with them.
Moving forward, what do you think? I guess what's kind of like your short, medium, long-term goals or look at things?
Right now, I think this market is a little nuts. We're very fortunate to be in two very strong markets right now. My goal is to continue getting this car engine tuned so it runs and purrs whether I'm there or not. My goal is to train and bring some people in-house up the ladder and hopefully step into my position or Nathan's position eventually, and maybe I can consult at some time. But I'm not trying to turn this into a $200 million firm, or Nathan isn't. It's more of, we're making a good living for our families, we're supporting 10 other families, our clients are happy. When I start thinking like that, that negates anything about bringing someone else on to bring the company on. Like that's the balance beam. It's too early to say what's the future of Sterling, but we're here for a good amount of time and continuing to support what we're doing, and hopefully I can take longer vacations and longer periods of time when this thing's running right, and maybe someone else will be stepping up and take over my role, and it can continue on. That's the plan now.
Yeah.
You know.
You like the zone you're in?
I do. I like our projects. I like our clients. I don't feel like our staff is overworked. You know, if we took on too much, then people would be miserable. We don't want that. We don't want to hire too many people because hiring is tough. Right now, there's a lot of people out looking for work because a lot of people got laid off. But finding the best quality may be tough, and that fits our niche of. Every single person that's at Sterling feels like they're an entrepreneur. They're part of the business. They're not just an employee. That's why making HR decisions and employee decisions is tough for me because we're so close to each other. But finding that person that fits this mold takes time. And it's taken a few times to get the 10 people that we have, and I don't want to tax them by trying to be 40 million to 50 million to 60 million. I don't think that's fair to anyone. It doesn't support our culture. I would say we have a culture now. It's something else. We have like a Sterling way of doing things.
That's great. Are there, so if it's not like a big picture plan of, you know, we want to try and diversify into different markets, or we want to grow in volume, or whatever it might be, or we want to do high rises, or we want to, whatever. If it's not like that type of look, are there systems you'd like to put in place? Are there roles that you'd like to, and I want to give you kind of a lot of examples. Are there roles that you would like to see within your company at some point? Are there technologies? Are there, I even jotted some of them down, like are there key hires? Is there like a HR system where you're like, we need to be better at employee reviews, so we're working at their goals? Is there, you know, training you want to put, but is it like, are there
all of that I can do?
Like,
it's, I mean, you could always try. You can improve anything. Your car outside, you could wash it and rewash it 15 times to try to improve it and find different nooks on it and wax and things. I can tell you this: our goal isn't to grow the business larger. It's to sustain what we have and to improve what we're doing. And if that means looking into the textures, the Lien Waiver controls, and all those different things, I'm going to do so in due time. My first goal is to better lead our company, better deliver our projects to our clients, treat our subs well, develop our social media a little bit better, get on LinkedIn more, finish our website. We're redoing our website now. Those are my short-term stuff, like to get Nick's, but I don't have in my head like a key hire. I'd love to be building the people up that we have and promoting them and growing them, and then bringing on newer people that we could work with and refeed the system. And if that happens, then maybe we grow in business. But until I'm not or Nathan and I are not the call the clients make, I don't want to change anything. Until they feel trust enough to call somebody else in our firm instead of me, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And it's just coaching these people and it's happening. I'm not the one sending out budgets as much now, and I can see the transition happening on a few clients at different people's in our office, and which is remarkable to see, because they started here as APMs and now they're taking over clients. And the more I see that, then I can focus on maybe a new client. So there is that type of, but it's organic. It's not forced. It's not, we have to hit this deadline or this quota. None of that. You can't. I don't think like that.
Okay.
Well, I think it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. No, that's the answer though, right? Is you're looking almost more grassroots, like you're going, like, to use like the baseball analogy, right? You're looking to grow a farm team.
Yeah.
Like, we want a good AAA program so that we've got really good talent and they're the ones filling in. They know our way of doing business. They know our culture. Like, that's a strategy, right?
I guess it's strategy, but it's not meant to. It wasn't designed that way. It's just happening.
Yeah, but yeah.
I don't have like a plan at home, like a checklist saying, oh, I got to do this tomorrow. Like, it's not. I see things. I try to make them better.
Right. No, and I know you. That wasn't like you had some strategy per se. That's just your approach,
right?
Right. Invest in your people and kind of grow it and keep it family, keep it small. You like the zone, like that's the approach. And it's funny, I wasn't asking you those questions to be like, oh, what's the next like thing? It was more like, if you and I were sitting somewhere having a beer or eating lunch or coffee or whatever, this is what I would ask you, and you might even ask me, like, well, what are you thinking? And like, right now I have a almost $2,000 camera sitting right there, because when I think about things and I'm waiting for the 2 new mics to show up, right? Because I look at it and say, like, okay, I think I need this to be a little better quality. I really enjoy this. I want to invest in it. I want to not have an audio file and a video file and have to overlay them if the sound's not great, right? It streamlines things. I can just pull a little card out, plug it in, and so, I was kind of thinking, like, what are you thinking when you're looking at it and saying, okay, where should I tinker, right? And are the things you think about tinkering with in those areas, whether it's key hire or like I said, like employee development type stuff where you're saying, okay, hey, we should start doing reviews more often, or we should have this person maybe do reviews. And I was just thinking from like a more like spitball perspective, not that you were like hard lined about this is what we're going to do and it's ABC, but just like when you do just kind of get lost in thought, what are some of the things that you kind of think about you'd like to see Sterling have?
It's more of when I see people struggling with something, that's when my brain starts firing. Like, I know Sonia, we have so many lien waivers that go in and out, and our accounting talks to Procore. Why can't something just spit out an automatic submittal? I mean, excuse me, a lien waiver. There's got to be someone that can program that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna look into that in my spare time. Like, there's things when I see people struggling, that's almost reactive, but being proactive is continuing to just groom. And one of my best PMs, I'm not getting involved with his decisions anymore. He's not calling me saying, hey, how do you think I should do this? It's, at first it was that, and then at first I had to give him, this is how I do it. Mm-hmm. At first I thought it was, do it this way, because this is risky. Then it turned into, this is how I would do it. And then I was like, it's your job, you do what's right.
Yeah.
And that person started with the beginning and now is doing all that himself. And I think our goal at Sterling is to we have a different model where we don't just have supers, PMs, carpenters. It's all like everyone can do a little of everything. And it's like Monday night, every 2 weeks on Mondays, I do in-house training for our 4 carpenters that all have laptops now, 3 carpenters that all have laptops now, and I'm teaching them, well, some of them a little slow with laptops and others, so I'm showing them how to use the laptop and the systems, getting them on Procore, showing them that stuff. That's not part of their daily job, but it's getting them thinking about what could happen next if they want to take that next step. Now, some people may not want to take another step up to a superintendent or a lead carpenter, but how many other presidents are out there doing that on a Monday night with those people? I could hire a consultant to come do that, but I think it means more that I'm doing it.
I agree. I think that's great.
You know,
I think that's good awareness, right?
Yeah.
And then there is, so I had put out on LinkedIn, speaking of LinkedIn, a poll asking people kind of how do they think it's going to play out post-COVID with who works remote. Whether it's everybody's going to go back full-time in the office, both field side and project management side. Everybody's going to be quasi-remote, or field's going to go back full-time, PMs are quasi-remote or mostly remote. You know, how do people think that's going to play out? And if it plays out kind of like I think it's going to play out, which is project management staff might be more remote, that to me furthers the divide between the field staff and the office staff, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of comments on that post, and I mean there were people with a paragraph,
Oh, wow.
multiple paragraphs, right? It was a really good insight, and a lot of people touched on the being part of the team, and if you're not there with someone else, right? You're not in it. You're not in the trenches with people. So I think by being a president that is spending the time to help the carpenters that work for you grow, right, or have the opportunity to grow if they want to, that's going to I think that culture that you're looking to build anyway. Hey, listen, we're all in this together. And now the flip side of the conversation is, I don't necessarily think that, and I'm saying both sides of things here, but you know, I think you really got to look at there would be frustration if there's a project manager that can work from home 2 days a week and get all of their work done, but we're making them drive in just to keep the field people happy so they don't feel I don't think that's a good answer either. Right? I don't know what the right answer is, and I think that's why there was so much conversation about it. But I think that does have a lot that there's a tie in there, right? There's that piece where okay, again, you can't be the president doing everything, but there is some value to be the president that did spend the time with the carpenters and get to know them, and I think that pays dividends for you in the long run, right? Where oh hey, this isn't just some guy that barks orders and I never see them, right?
Right.
So I think it's a good approach. I think that does tie with everything else you're saying, right? Growing people from within, investing them, to go back to my kind of farm team, build that farm team, and then you end up with, I don't know if he really was, but Jackie Bradley Jr.
Right.
or whoever that person was. I'm not a big baseball guy anymore, but I like that approach. Is there anything that you or I should say, what do you and Nathan talk about?
Everything. We talk all the time. We at least talk 3 or 4 times a day. More if there's an issue. We meet, I'd like to say every 2 weeks. We kind of got away from it a little bit, and we're back on it this Friday. Get in the office, grab lunch together, close the door, and go through staffing needs, go through potential projects, go through closing out jobs, status reviews, all that type of stuff. What's the feel of how's everyone feeling? What do we need to do? Did everyone get the right clothes, the tools? Just kind of go through things and talk it through. What can I do to help him? He runs a lot of the smaller projects with clients, with the Emersons, the UMasses. So he's getting pulled in so many directions, and he doesn't have some of the support staff that the larger projects have that I kind of manage and run. So do we take someone from our not different teams, but do we transfer an APM from one job and have them work over here a little bit? Like, we're always working on that stuff. We got each other's back. It's been a good partnership.
A lot of staffing related.
Well, it's more of what are the hot lists, what are the things, because he'll have Emerson come up and say, I need you to come in, I need guys to come in tonight to put up COVID screens or to build a morgue or to do, or UMass will do a testing.
It's just a great sentence.
I'm just
build a morgue.
Yeah, it's crazy, but
need a morgue. Yeah, that's real.
We're putting up 10 trailers now, so those phone calls happen any time of the day, and he could be in the middle of something else, and it's okay. What can we do to drop and help this client, and what resources do I need to push around? Related Bill has a leak somewhere, and we got to divert resources somewhere else. So those decisions are pretty much Nathan manages all the time, and then we talk if there's something that he needs help with, budget-wise or risk management or things like that. That hey Andy, can you jump on this? Can you take a look at it? And I do the same with Nathan. Like, I'm working on a couple pre-con things now, and I didn't have time to build the schedule, so he's jumping on and doing the schedule. So him and I are in constant communication, and anyone that's going to do this on their own, having a key, I wouldn't have done this by myself. Could I have? Maybe. Could Nathan have? Maybe. But we're much better together. And I couldn't have done it without a great spouse, a support family. All that type of things played into the success of the business, because I don't have to worry about hurting Nathan's feelings or staying up too late, because I can really make the best decisions for Sterling, knowing that Nathan has the best decisions for Sterling in mind too, and we're aligned there. There isn't egos. It's what's the right thing for Sterling. It's so simple. I didn't think that would have been my biggest fear, is partnerships and partners. People fight and have partnership problems all the time, and we get along well. We don't step on each other's clothes. We communicate well. Do we have arguments? Of course. Yeah. But they're not. Nothing that's not short-lived, and nothing that we don't think of. Step aside. What's the best for the project? What's the best for the client? What's best for the company?
Yeah.
And I've eaten crow. I've said, oh shit, Nathan, you're right, and Nathan said the same thing to me. Or hey, I missed that. It works. Yeah. You can't point fingers. You got to grow together, and he's developed so much too as a partner in the business. He's grown so much in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we haven't even touched on. That partnership is
it's harder than marriage.
Yeah, but the fact that you guys sync and fit and work well together is definitely part of that recipe of success,
it's
right?
It's the only part of it. Yeah. If we didn't get along, we could not. There would be no trust. There's so much trust with each other, and they think about how controlling I am, right? And how much I need to be in all decisions and all those type of things related to high level company stuff. And then Nathan, to allow me to do those things, I bump things off him, of course, but he's never once questioned my motive or I've ever questioned his motive. We don't have any issues about taking time off, or he did this and he spent that. All of that stuff is behind us. At first it wasn't. At first it was very difficult. The first 2 years were terrible. We didn't get along. We got along, but we were just kind of going through it. And it took because at first we started the business, it's tough to share this, but we first started the business with both principals. And I talked to Nathan and I said, I don't mind it that we're principals and we're equal partners here, but I don't think we sound like a GC. I mean, GCs have presidents and vice presidents. They don't have principals. Architects have principals. I felt like that's how I felt. And we had to restructure the business to make one of us president, one of us vice president. And there was a little conversation at first, but at the end we both agreed that I was the best for this role and he was the best for his role. And we have not looked back since and even revisited it once. Yeah. But you had to hash it out. Yeah. You had to. Because we're both strong people. We're both good at what we do. Yeah. But you can only have one in charge, and it's not really I'm in charge. It's just, you know what I'm saying. You have to have
So there's no
One of each.
confusion, right?
You
Like
have-
you can't have two masters,
you
especially
cannot-
for employees,
Yep.
right? Like,
And I don't go over Nathan's back. There's never been a time where I would contradict him. It's more of we always try to make sure we're aligned front in front of everyone else.
so it's more procedural rather than
Yep.
like one person.
Nathan won't
being
say,
over
Nathan
the
won't
other.
give an order and I'll say no, don't do this and not talk. That will never happen.
Yeah.
That'd be the end of our partnership.
And now, so Nathan Flieger was who we're talking about for
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that are just listening. You guys started this together. Nathan's an interesting cat. And,
He's a cool cat.
and to me, really valuable because, like, so he's running the operations in the field side.
But not just that. He's doing
Well,
budgets. He's doing
well,
client
that's where I'm
management.
going.
Like don't
No.
just say
I'm
this
not
stuff.
sleeping on him. No. That's
Yeah.
why I'm going. So he's running the field side, but he has a background as a PX.
Yeah.
So to have somebody that has like that PX capability, but when you show up, we got work boots, and he's debating with me about the details of the code and the language and what do I do, like. That's scary good.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a remarkable quality.
Like to have that,
Yeah.
like, because usually like the PX person is not, most of the time you're running a PX, they're not going to be able to be talking
Almost
about,
sales. Polished.
yeah, or like talking about, oh, we need a 30-ton crane for this. They don't even know what that means.
How many sticks is that?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a great resource, and to be able to have someone that can run the field like that, but then handle like healthcare clients and on an executive level, like that's pretty convenient, right?
I don't want to say it's convenient. It was kind of a plan. I knew my strengths and weaknesses. I knew I could develop the business in certain markets, and I knew Nathan would nail the healthcare. And it just took doing that first door at Emerson, and then growing from there. But I get involved with Emerson high level. Hey, I stop in every now and then. How are you guys? Hey, let's grab lunch sometime. Let's go golfing. That's not my day-to-day stuff. But Nathan is with them weekly, handles their multi meetings, does all their budgeting. So he'll turn out like 4 or 5 budgets a week, not just at Emerson, at UMass or Melrose Wakefield, just for like, hey, we're going to change the CT. It's a $200,000 job. He'll do that stuff and send it off and just rubber stamp me on it. There's no even question in my mind he doesn't have that nailed. The larger stuff we work together because it's more of a bid process, and I kind of run that pre-con side of it. But he's turning around. There's POs coming to our office that I knew about but didn't know about, and it's all. I mean, there's millions of dollars worth of revenue that he's generating from these clients
and
managing without any support. Like it's him and the carpenters, and that's it. And that's when we talk about these staffing questions. Okay, Nathan, you got a job coming up for $400,000. Let's give you a little help on this, and let's kind of go from there. And he's finishing up that 50 Symphony project, which was very difficult for Sterling. Timelines, permitting, changes, design. It's a great project, finished well. Took a long time to get done, but knowing that took so many resources from Sterling, with Nathan having to be dedicated to that job, made the other stuff suffer a little bit. Just like I was focused on D Street, right?
Yeah.
So we're deciding, what are our strengths? Where do we want to be in the market? We want to be in healthcare. We know that. We're in there. We want to be in life science. And do we want to do a corporate interior here and there? Sure, but I don't think we're going to do any more multifamily market stuff. It's not for us. I don't think it's as strong as the stuff we're already in. People would kill to get into the clients we have, I think. Not taken away from the but that would take more resources and more duration than the product. Like, we'll turn around a job for Emerson or Related Beal or UMass in, some as short as 4 weeks, some as long as 16 weeks. Those multifamily things are years.
Yeah.
We're too small of a company for that. We don't have, there's companies, there's divisions of companies that are my size that just do the multifamily for larger firms. That's not us.
Yeah. No, that makes
You
sense.
gotta know that's the other part of, you want to start your own company, people listening, you gotta know what you're good at, stick with what you're good at, and don't try to do what you're not.
Yeah, and I think culturally is more of a fit to, like, the person that is managing a healthcare project is not the same person that's doing a multifamily
Different subs,
or
the whole 9 yards.
or a CVS on an open lot.
Yep.
Like they're different
Strip
animals,
malls, yeah,
right? Like,
completely.
and you need a different personality for both of them. Not that one's better
Not
than
one
another,
better than
but
another. Yep.
they're different people. So I think your sense is right there, right? Where, okay, healthcare, life sciences, that's the type of
Those can commingle.
yes,
They are.
I
They're
agree.
higher education, same thing. A lot of policy procedures in place. Some different type of corporate interiors, maybe if we get into that. But life science is about keeping people safe and experiments and all of that they develop, right? R&D and patient care, healthcare is patient care and keep people safe. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's very
you're
close.
looking at infection control.
Yeah.
You're looking at
ICRA,
positive and
PICRA, all that
negative
fun
air.
stuff. Yeah, and we're strong MEPs from our own background, so those are higher MEP projects. So it's
a good fit.
It's a good fit.
All right, I've had you a long time already, but I'm
I
gonna
don't
ask
care.
the question that I always like to ask, which is
Who's gonna win president? No.
I know better than that.
That would be a good debate.
Yes, I'd lose half my audience.
You
And
gain the
I'd
other
gain-
half.
Yeah. Next 12 to 24 months, and maybe it's 5 years. It doesn't have to be. It's not a precise game we're playing here. But what do you think we see more of, and what do you think we see less of? And you can answer one or the other, or you can answer both, or
in our market, or in general.
Either or. Whatever you think.
I think what I'm hearing on the streets now is a lot of the companies that do the corporate interiors and the office fit ups and all of that type of work are slow because no one's signing new leases because people are reevaluating if they need to work from home or re-up their leases or not. So that's definitely taken a turn for a lot of different companies, lease brokers, accountants, attorneys, architects, and contractors. So now, where do those people go? What do? Well, they're going to try to diversify and get into other markets that are probably stronger, which now maybe will create some competition for us in our market. So I'm trying to prepare ourselves for that, meaning improve, do better, make our commitments with our clients stronger, really develop our relationship with our architects that we're working with, repeat architects, repeat engineers, repeat clients. So develop those relationships, make sure they're strong. Prepare ourselves. We just became DCAM certified for $25 million. That's another avenue that I feel can be competitive, can be profitable, and it gives us a source of revenue just in case something else dries up.
Yeah, diversification.
So I'm preparing ourselves for that. You read, one day you think things are slowing down, next thing you know, Suffolk got released for another 500,000 tons worth of steel somewhere. So it's tough to put your finger on it, and anyone that can sit here and say they know is probably drinking something Kool-Aid. But I think things are going to slow down a little bit with the COVID, with the election coming up. I think people are going to reposition their real estate and to find ways to maybe repurpose areas that are not rented out right now. A lot of people are jumping on that life science and healthcare market because they see that as a revenue source. I get calls weekly from new developers that, hey, I heard you do life science for so-and-so, would you be willing to look at this job for us? And they don't even know what deck heights need to be to build a life science building. So everyone's trying to get into this market. They see something hot, so they're trying to get into it. I think once the election passes and once COVID gets a little bit under control, I'm hoping that things rebound stronger than they are.
Stronger.
Yeah, I do. I do because I think it's kind of like the scenario where unfortunately you see all these young people, college students, whoever, maybe not college students, but young adults, it seems like getting together and having parties right now because they've been released to. And they've been cooped up so long that they just want to get out and do something. I think a lot of the brokers, the developers, the contractors feel like they've got not a noose around their neck, but they're tightened up right now because things are slow, you can't get materials. But as soon as that valve opens up, I think things are going to come back. Because people are going to want to start spending money. People are going to be bored not doing something and developing. I mean, that's an optimistic approach.
And hopefully it's not the, in stock terms, not the dead cat bounce.
Yeah, right? It could go the other way, but I want to hope for the best.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, I think, obviously, like being positive.
Yeah.
But I think the theme to pull out of that is that there's going to be a reshuffling.
There will be.
Right. People are going to move from sector to sector, or move out of one sector into other sectors, therefore making that space more competitive. Who knows if there's a place for some specialty, small GC that is really good at repurposing that existing space and cutting it up and doing smaller jobs. Like, okay, hey, we want to carve out this space and at least we have this half a floor. We're going to keep a third of it, and the other 2/3 we want to cut it up into 8 suites, right? Like, is there somebody that gets really good at optimizing and for speed, that kind of stuff? Does that bode well for, what's that? There's like dirt walls.
Yeah, dirt system, metro walls, all those type of things, removable
like,
partitions.
You know, does that mean that they're, like, I wonder, that's what I've kind of wondered about lately, are those going to be, the winners in this, right?
They don't move that well. I mean, they're more of a prefab thing than anything. I mean, once you lay track and put epoxy down on the floor, you put your dirt system in, it's still got a lot to deal with if you move those. But that's just the details of it. But
yeah, and I didn't even mean from like a
constructability part.
Yeah, or not from like a just constantly moving, but like, okay, we're gonna take this space post-COVID, we're gonna cut it up. Do those more modular prefabricated systems win the day? I don't know. I don't know if they do, but I'm interested to see if they do.
I think we'll see a lot of prefab happening. I think people are going to want to build a lot of things in controlled environments, get them to the site. I think we'll see that improve. Our material chains. I mean, we have materials sitting in Vancouver right now for a job we ordered back in January that haven't even shipped yet. Until those things change, no one's going to want to start a project knowing that they can't finish it.
Yeah.
Or substitute a material with a lesser quality or something like that. That's what's going to drive this thing, is material availability, people wanting to come back to work. People are being asked, and some people may not want to return to work. All those things are going to play into how well we rebound. And if people want this to rebound, they need to come back to work.
Have you seen some hesitancy?
I've heard
from subcontractors.
Yeah, I've heard from subcontractors. I've heard from like our fabrication company saying, they're delayed on getting handrails to us because they can't get anyone to come in and fab them because they're, they may or may not be making money somewhere else, or they may not feel safe coming back to work. There's a lot of different reasons. Their family, they're taking care of their family. There's so many different things, but I don't think we see anything changing until we see some improvement with people's availability and material availability.
Material availability, election passes, clarity on COVID.
Yeah.
Those are
10 weeks. Those are big things to overcome.
4 big things.
And what was amazing for us as Sterling to go through this pandemic as a 4-year-old firm and to be just as financially strong as we were before we entered it was showing you how well we put our systems in place and closing the book on a month end and all those type of things. We didn't even blink an eye because that's surrounding myself with the right people and making the right decisions made it easier for our employees too. They felt safe, they knew they're coming back to work. It all worked out really well, and there's a lot of people that didn't go back to work yet, that got shut down right away, and our employees, that didn't happen.
All right, Andy, this was awesome. This was a bit of a masterclass.
Oh, geez.
So I like it.
I'd like everyone to, if they could, follow either me on LinkedIn or I'd like to see our company get more than 380 followers. I don't know how to do that.
Let me do that. All right, everybody, if you're still listening, hopefully you are. That's the end here. Follow Andrew Colameta on LinkedIn. Follow Sterling. I've been bugging him for years now to access social media. It's a powerful tool. The podcast is a powerful tool. Everybody listening knows that. Show Andy that it can be powerful. reach out, follow Sterling, Instagram even. If you want to look at my profile, you'll see them there. Follow them. If Andy sees a bump, that will help me get him over the hump, because he says, yeah, I know I need to do it, and then it's like, yeah, I know I got to work out too, but unless you do push-ups, you're not getting any muscles.
Yeah, right.
So awesome, Andy, fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was good.
Really?
That was really good.
No bullshit?
No bullshit. That was really good.